Hey everyone, and welcome to These Days, and I'm your host Barb Keidel. It's my pleasure to be here again with you this evening at Channel 23. We hope you're tuning in and watching us live. And tonight we have a wonderful guest here from Brookfield. He's quite an interesting person. Lots of things are going on with him, and he's got a whole slew of information to tell us. And his name is Steve Schappert. Welcome to our program, Steve.
Hi. Nice to meet you, Barb.
Nice to meet you, too, and thank you so much for agreeing to come on our program here at Comcast 23. So, Steve, let's talk a little bit about yourself. You're an environmental consultant, which is very interesting because a lot of things are going on environmentally now. People are thinking about what's going on. Can you tell us a little bit about that part of your life?
That part of my life, the last couple of years, almost 10 years, I've kind of focused on building environmental housing. Started out as a real estate broker, had a guy come in and say, hey, I do panelized houses, why don't we partner up? So we started building panelized houses. But if you went to a cocktail party and you said panelized housing, people would go, is that a trailer? No, it's not a trailer. It's actually a very efficient home, very strong home, and they're all Energy Star rated. So the Energy Star guy came in and told me about it, and I said, well, Energy Star is good. There's 16,000 builders in Connecticut. There's only 137 Energy Star builders. So that elevates it quite a bit. And then I got on the phone with the Department of Energy and said, what else do you got? Because I want to narrow down the competition. They said, look at zero energy housing. So I looked at zero energy housing. That's designing buildings that actually produce more energy than they use.
Well, this is pretty interesting. All this information is just coming at me. How do you design one of those?
I designed one in New Milford. Unfortunately, the foundation is still sitting there because the economy crashed. I lost everything. But we'll put that to a side for now and go back to the building. The building was going to be the very first solar-powered building in a historic district anywhere in the country. And it took me about 4 years to get all of the approvals on it, and it was 15,000 square feet on 0.08 acres.
Which is an amazing feat
to
me, anyway.
Feat just to be able to put all that in there. But I was able to get some leniencies and stuff because of the design and because of the environmental impact that the building had.
So this is mighty interesting information, and I think there's a lot of people out there that would be willing to contact you to find out a little bit more about this. And if we could put that up, Steve's contact information, if you could do that, that would be great. There's so much to talk about, and it says here that, there you go, your name and your contact info is up there now. Marketing guru, does that have to do with what you were just talking about?
It does, because a lot of what I did was salesmanship. It was being able to go to the town boards and convince them, look, I want to do it this way. It might not be what you're used to, particularly going to a historic district and tell them I'm going to put solar panels across the whole southern roof line. It wasn't easy, but I was able to make certain changes, like setting the building back a little bit, had another building right next to it. So by setting the building back a little bit, and staggering the solar panels, as you walk down the street, the visual is not of the glass. The visual is of all of the historic reproduction that I built.
Well, this is a lot of interesting information for me. I'm not aware of all of this type of thing. But in your travels now, you're doing many, many things. And I think it's interesting. He's a sort of a Renaissance man, right? They're coming out there and doing...
In a way. It's an evolution, so to speak.
An evolution.
kind of went from, a builder and a contractor
Yeah.
and a real estate broker, and all of that was very much based on my marketing ability.
Okay.
And then when I got into doing real estate development, it was still based on my marketing ability. The fact that I was on NBC for 5.5 months for free while I was getting the approvals for the building. I got approvals for a $3.6 million building, and then I had financing for a $9 million building, and then we got financing, letter of intent for a $69 million project.
Oh my goodness.
And then the next call came in, and the next one, and the next one, and the next one, and within 8 months, I had $1.3 billion worth of projects right here in Connecticut.
Oh my goodness.
Sitting on my desk in various forms with about $82 million worth of financing approvals.
That's fantastic. And who are the
It was-
people calling you about this?
Honestly, friends, old friends that happen to be real estate investors. Mike owned 25 acres in New Milford and said, "You seem pretty smart. What could you do with this?" And I simply took my little, well, not my little one, but my 37,000 square foot congregate living facility, and I just clustered them up on the hill. And that turned into about 200,000 square feet of development. And then I had a real estate broker friend of mine in Waterbury. He said, "Hey, my friend Ralph's got, owns a city block. What
can
could
you
you do
do?"
there?" So I just look at it and scratch my head, and I've got a unique ability from what the developers tell me, and I've had billionaires tell me. You simply look at things differently
Yes.
than other people. One example was a project in Brookfield, and they were, the engineer had designed 17 single-family houses on it. And I stared at the land, and I said, you could probably get 1 million square feet on there. And the engineer just looks at me and goes, "What do you mean?" And I just took a pencil and I go, "Shh. This hill that you have here that you're saying that you can't build on, you can bring the road around the back and you put the front door there, then the 30-foot height restriction starts there, and then the building actually just slopes down the hill
Wow.
to here, so you end up having a 10-story building in Brookfield with a 30-foot height restriction. Pretty cool."
Yeah.
And he stares at me again and goes, "But the excavation cost of all that." I go, "There is no excavation cost because O&G would pay $2.7 million to come in and excavate that. It's all high-grade sand and gravel."
That's right. They could
So
use it
it's-
after. This is very interesting. So have you always had this way of thinking from childhood on, or was
Been
this something
crazy all
that-
my life? Yeah, pretty much.
Well, listen, I see that you've been through a lot in your life, and basically you've been on death's doorstep on several occasions, and you're sitting here. You made it through. And one of those interesting events was what that happened to you?
It's
Or
a
throughout.
long list.
How about,
18
you were a
months-
young baby?
18 months on life support, a virus. They had no idea, and I simply snapped out of it. And today, they're just like, "We don't know what was wrong with you." At 5 years old, I flipped out of a little red wagon and broke my collarbone. Lucky I didn't break my neck. Saved
Yeah.
that for later. 15, I broke my wrist on a skateboard, and then I had to have it operated on, and then that got better, and I got in a car accident, and I woke up with a pressure relief valve in my skull and my arm across my nest and my chest, and 194 stitches, crushed the nerve in my arm,
Oh my goodness.
and yeah. let me
You've been
see.
through a lot.
Broke my neck on an ATV going over the handlebars. I put a chainsaw through my thigh while clearing a lot as a builder. I've broken
my
my
gosh.
ankle. My knees are shot. I'm a disaster.
But you're the bionic man in
I'm
many
not,
ways.
but I wish I was. I'm
You were.
getting ready to chop this arm, and I'm
We
seeing if
also
I can
have
put
a
one of those on.
bionic camera person and director out there today. So your goal then, let's talk a little bit about currently what you're doing. You're involved in Greenfest, which we'll
Correct.
talk about, everybody, and the BIOS, B-I-O-S, World Peace Tour. Now, we've got your BIOS shirt here, and it says bioswatercar.com. So, I mean, there's so much going on that you're doing. What would you like to talk a little bit about first? The goal of Greenfest and the BIOS World Peace Tour. What is the goal? What is your goal?
The goal is just to create a better world, so to speak. And what we're going to do is create a better world that, I don't know, I have to come up with a concept that will help bond all race, creed,
Yes.
color together. And I want to do that by teaching people about healthy, holistic, organic, sustainable, and energy efficient living. That's kind of been, you know, my life dream.
Yes.
My whole life has always been this marriage of affordable green living. Green living doesn't matter unless it's affordable. Sorry, hate to be blunt, but it doesn't. If my building in New Milford wasn't so profitable, nobody would have called, nobody would have cared.
Okay.
The world doesn't change until it's affordable. So that's kind of the goal, is to seek out different affordable technologies and apply them. So when I lost the building in New Milford, I literally lost $1.3 million over lunch. It was my home, my office, my job, insurance, no unemployment, no health care, nothing.
My goodness.
Left with $142, a 2000 Cherokee, and a 1972 Mustang that had had a blue tarp over it for 4 years. I pulled the tarp off the car, I look under the hood and go, oh boy, life sucks. Got a few choices here. We're going to sell the car for lunch, I'm going to move into it for shelter, or I've read about these hydrogen generators and I have a lot of space under the hood. I'll put a really big one, should be able to get some really good performance on it, and I'll drive cross country and get a lot of publicity for my green building company.
Well, you know, see, there's another example of how you think. You're constantly thinking ahead and creating new ideas, right?
Right.
I really applaud you for that.
Yes.
You know,
Lie down and die, or go on a
or
road
move-
trip.
Yeah, that's it.
So I put the road trip on Facebook, and one of the founders of MTV called up and said, that's a great idea, let's make a movie.
Wow.
So we never made the movie, but Comcast actually came in and did a little trailer for us.
How
And
exciting.
so we're just kind of keep moving that. The first trip was 28 days, and we went through 28 states, and we did 20
Wow.
TV and
You were
radio
moving.
interviews.
And these interviews were on what now?
ABC, NBC, CNN.
And what was your topic?
The BIOS water car.
Okay, the BIOS water car. I am excited. I'm so excited about talking about that. Now, when you're talking about, you know, teaching everyone about sustainable, organic, efficient living, how will you accomplish this? How do you plan to awaken humanity? I know that's a goal of yours. How are we going to do this?
The BIOS water car is a great example. It's kind of like the shiny little red ball for a child. It's a shiny blue Mustang that uses water for fuel.
How do you do it? Listen, people.
The first time we put a system in that didn't work, so I'm on TV like 8 times going, it's not working, the manufacturer's not calling, kept driving. An inventor in Oregon called up and said, I'll put mine in. We put his in. It got a 17% increase. We drove home. My partner went back to work. I went back to school and kept driving the car back and forth, and I blew it up a couple of times. And in blowing it up, meaning burning holes through things, I took it apart, put it back together, scratched my head.
I can't
The
believe
good
this.
part about having the first system not work is that all of the competitors and other manufacturers called up and said, well, let me tell you why his doesn't work and why ours does. So I simply applied technologies from different people, and I got the car to get a 58% increase in gas mileage. Okay? That is using what we call a booster. The booster allows